I am the mistress of terror. I dwell in the spaces between fear and fascination, between reality and nightmare. I am the keeper of stories, the weaver of dread. Tonight, I will be your guide into the heart of darkness. I have gathered 3 tales, each more unsettling than the last. They are whispers from the abyss, fragments of forgotten nightmares. They are stories that will burrow into your mind and stay with you long after the lights go out. Listen closely, for these stories are not for the faint of heart. They are for those who crave the thrill of terror, who find beauty in the macabre. They are for those who dare to peer into the shadows and confront the darkness within. Are you ready to hear the stories you were never meant to know? The year is 1857. The mist hangs heavy over Harrogate, a small town in northern England where secrets cling to the cobblestone streets like the damp chill of the evening air. The townsfolk whisper of a woman consumed by grief, a widow known only as Margaret Sewell. They call her the Weeping Widow. Every day, Margaret could be found in the town cemetery, her frail form hunched over a freshly dug grave. It was the final resting place of her husband, taken too soon by an illness that swept through the town like a silent storm. Or so the story went. But whispers are like shadows. They twist and distort the truth. Some townsfolk spoke of Margaret's obsession with her husband's death, an obsession that bordered on madness. They said she spent her nights huddled over ancient books, their pages filled with arcane symbols and whispered promises of forbidden knowledge. They spoke of strange lights emanating from her windows, lights that danced and flickered like flames caught in a whirlwind. They spoke of shadows moving within, shadows that seemed to have a life of their own. Margaret, they said, refused to believe that death was the end. Driven by her grief, she sought solace in the darkest corners of the occult, seeking a way to bridge the chasm between the living and the dead. She sought to defy the natural order, to cheat the grave itself. She sought out those who claimed to speak with spirits, those who promised to unlock the secrets of the afterlife. She immersed herself in rituals and incantations, her home filled with the scent of strange herbs and the echoing whispers of forgotten tongues. The townsfolk whispered of sacrifices, of blood rituals performed under the light of a blood moon. They whispered of a darkness that had taken root in Margaret's soul, a darkness that fed on her grief and twisted her love into something monstrous. Then, one night, as suddenly as she had withdrawn from the world, Margaret vanished. Her home was found abandoned, the air thick with the cloying scent of incense and decay. A single candle flickered on a table, casting dancing shadows on the walls. Beside it lay a framed portrait of her husband, his eyes seeming to follow the viewer with an unnerving intensity. Days turned into weeks, and still there was no sign of Margaret Sewell. The townsfolk whispered that she had gotten what she deserved, that her obsession with the dead had finally consumed her, but the whispers soon turned to screams. Strange things began to happen in the cemetery where Margaret had spent her days in mourning. The ground around her husband's grave was perpetually wet, as if soaked with tears or something else. A chilling cold settled over the area, and an unnatural mist clung to the air, even on the clearest of days. Deep in the desolate heart of the Scottish Highlands stands Blackwood Manor, a place of whispers and shadows, shrouded in darkness. Locals speak of the manor in hushed tones, their voices heavy with dread. They tell of the Red Room, a place of unspeakable evil. Its walls are stained a deep, unsettling crimson. Legend says the walls are soaked in blood. Blackwood Manor was once home to Lord Alistair, consumed by the occult. He indulged his darkest desires in the Red Room. Whispers spread through the nearby village like wildfire. They spoke of strange lights emanating from Blackwood Manor at night, of chanting voices carried on the wind, of screams that were abruptly cut short. Servants disappeared from the manor without a trace, their fates unknown but widely speculated upon. Lord Alistair, they said, had made a pact with something ancient and evil, something that lurked in the shadows between worlds. He offered it sacrifices, human sacrifices, in exchange for forbidden knowledge and power beyond measure. The Red Room, it was said, became a conduit to the abyss, a gateway through which unspeakable horrors were unleashed, as Lord Alistair delved deeper into his dark rituals. The Red Room seemed to warp and twist around him. The walls wept with a crimson dew. The air grew thick with the stench of decay, and the shadows themselves seemed to writhe and coil like living things. The room became a reflection of his own corrupted soul, a macabre monument to his insatiable hunger for power. Lord Alistair's reign of terror ended mysteriously. Some say the entity he summoned claimed his soul. Others believe he was driven mad by his own dark desires. Blackwood Manor fell silent, abandoned to the elements. Locals whispered of the manor's dark history. Children dared each other to approach the manor. They swore they could hear the screams and chilling laughter. The Red Room's evil lingered, a grim reminder of unopened doors. Blackwood Forest, a place of dark majesty and unsettling beauty, where shadows stretch and twist in the fading light, and the air hangs heavy with the weight of secrets best left buried. It is a place where time seems to flow differently, where the line between reality and nightmare blurs with each step deeper into its heart. The locals knew to avoid the forest after dark, knew that some things were best left undisturbed. But for the children of the nearby villages, the forest held a dangerous allure, a forbidden playground where imagination and fear danced hand in hand. And it was here, in the heart of Blackwood Forest, that a darkness took root, a darkness that fed on innocence and whispered promises of oblivion. It began slowly, almost imperceptibly. A child would wander a little too far from the village, lured by the whisper of the wind through the trees or the flash of a brightly colored bird. They would call out for their parents, their voices swallowed by the dense foliage, their small footprints disappearing into the soft, yielding earth, and then silence. Searches were organized, desperate pleas for information posted in the villages, but the missing children were never found. Their disappearances became a chilling mystery. Some whispered of wild animals driven by a harsh winter. Others spoke of something far more sinister. Then one day, a hunter named Thomas emerged with a chilling tale. He ventured deeper into the woods, drawn by children's laughter. But the laughter was wrong. It was hollow, filled with a chilling emptiness. He approached cautiously, his hand trembling on the rifle, and then he saw them, children, but not the children he remembered. Their skin was pale, their eyes hollowed out sockets. They moved with an unnerving stillness, devoid of any emotion. "What lurks in the shadows?" he called out, his voice trembling with fear. But the children didn't respond. They simply stared, their hollow eyes burning into his soul. Then they vanished into the fog, their laughter echoing. Word of the encounter spread through the villages. Some dismissed it as madness. Others whispered of an ancient evil in the forest. Thus, the legend of the Hollow Children was born. A legend whispered around fires, a warning to those who venture too far. Some secrets are best left buried in the darkness. The flames die down, casting dancing shadows across the room. But the silence that follows is not the comforting silence of resolution. It is a silence pregnant with unease. You glance over your shoulder, half expecting to see something lurking in the shadows. The familiar creaks and groans of your home take on a sinister quality. The wind whispers your name. They are fragments of nightmares, whispers from the abyss. And once you have looked into that abyss, it also looks into you. And so, my dear listener, our journey into the heart of darkness comes to an end for now, but the shadows are never truly gone, are they? They linger at the edge of your vision, waiting for you to let your guard down, waiting to claim you as their own. Remember the stories you have heard tonight. Remember the truths they reveal, the fears they embody, for they are a reminder that the world is not always as it seems, that darkness can lurk in the most unexpected places, that even in the brightest of lights, shadows can still hold sway. Until next time, my dear listener, sleep well if you can.